Danny Ford Jr. is with us in the studio. David Pasco called. I want to make sure we get the trifecta covered. These guys are outsiders. For the most part, they're not establishment Republican figures. They've not cut their teeth in the Republican world. I kind of like that. It's a bit refreshing to me. I see a little of me in that. But Danny Ford Jr. and his father were with us a few weeks back. He's made a return visit, campaigning across the state. Brought me an orange shirt, Rev.
I see it.
Yeah, brought me an orange shirt, Rev.
Put it on.
He knows I bleed garnet. Is a little bit antagonistic. That's probably from Daddy there. Good morning, Danny. How are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
I am well. So you guys will be in Florence tonight.
Yeah. They're having a business in Bourbon. It's at the dispensary at 5 to 7:30, and it's called Business in Bourbon. And Paul's right. Me, him, and David Pasco will be there speaking. I've been to quite a few of these events, and it seems like a good little plug to get people involved, get people out there. So it's been good.
Well, your name's out there as a football coach and a football family, but not as a candidate for elected office.
That's right.
What have you learned? You were here a couple of weeks back. What have you learned about the state and the office of the campaign that you didn't know last time you were here?
What I've learned is we're in trouble. We've got some really work to do in the agriculture sector. We've had 13 mills shut down in the state and around the state of South Carolina. We've got 18 dairies left in the South Carolina. When you start going down the list of what we are dealing with in South Carolina, it is very troubling to see what our children are going to have to deal with. And so we need to start looking 10 years down the road. 60 years old is the average age of the farmer. 35 and under makes up only 9% of our industry. So I see it, and I just see us having a hard time through the years.
Danny, I believe this, and I've talked this is philosophical, I guess, in nature, and it'll be a generational. You don't wake up one day and change this overnight. But a lot of South Carolina believed the better path forward was to get off the farm.
Yeah.
Whether it meant join the military, whether it meant go to the textile mill, whether it meant go to college and get a degree and find a better job somewhere. I've always felt that if everybody leaves the farm, we're not going to have enough farming, and we create problems like food insecurity and all these other sorts of things. How can we convince young people that the farm life is a good life?
Well,
do you agree with the analogy?
Oh, absolutely. It's the best life out there. When there's a level playing field, when we're at a disadvantage, it's a struggle, to get people involved, to let people know you're there. Convenience has taken a real high priority in our life. And every time you go after convenience, there is a cost for it. And, there's the daily cost, and then there's the cost down the road. So I see us having to get back to local, having to really saturate the market full of South Carolina product, and then move out from there. That's not how it is right now. You have, 4 big packers that control 85% of the market. So anything that's produced in South Carolina, food-wise, usually goes to them to be processed. We lose out on any of that income for state tax revenue. And then it comes back in through your restaurants and things like that. So I really see one thing I want to do is the app that they have now that does every roadside stand and market. I'd like for producers to be able to list their live inventory and consumers to be able to list what they are looking for farmers to produce. That way we can really bridge the gap between local and we can support our community. When I helped with Helene up there, it was absolutely amazing to see the community come over the top and really be the support and the fix for the system.
Is it fair to say that historically South Carolinians have looked at farming kind of cotton, tobacco, beans, and corn? It's much broader than that. I think your family's in the cattle farming.
Yeah, we're in the cattle farming, and it's a lot of in the Midlands. It's a lot of the row crops. Like I say, up there in our area, we're the largest cattle producers in the state, Anderson County. But we're losing that, and we're seeing that. There's one dairy in Anderson County now. One. You know what I mean? So you're talking about things that they're implementing at the national level. I don't know if you saw the other day, but they were going to bring milk back to school. What better way to do it than to give these farms something to produce and to produce for our children.
And look after South Carolina schools, looking after South Carolina farms.
That's right.
That's something you're talking about. You sent me a text a while back. Being a cattle farmer, there's certain qualities of beef.
Yeah.
And you felt we weren't as good as we could be at some of the CBA and some of the higher quality. You're going to dispensary tonight.
Yeah.
They've got a restaurant, Town Hall.
Okay.
They're kind of known for high quality food, right, Rev?
That's right.
But that would you go there when the owners come to town. Kind of walk me through what you think we need to do to compete with some of the western states in quality of cattle.
Well, the first thing that we need to do, and, I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I think that where we're at on it is we can't, as farmers in South Carolina, get it graded prime. They say you can, but when you actually go down through the steps and you try to get that done, you cannot find anybody. So we're at a $4 disadvantage.
So if a restaurant wants prime beef,
it's coming from out of state. That's right.
That's my point.
Yeah.
And you believe that you can breed good enough cattle to have that designation. We just don't prioritize that in our state.
That's right. Our infrastructure is lacking in South Carolina. I grew up, just like we talked about last time, I grew up rodeoing. There's not a state in South Carolina that has a rodeo team, a collegiate rodeo team. High school rodeo is huge in South Carolina. There's tons of kids that go out west and are successful, and we've had several top 10 champions in South Carolina that have gone out there at the national level. It's the biggest rodeo in the world, all kids. And when they come back and they end their high school career, there's not a school in South Carolina that has a rodeo team. That is a huge problem, to where we are losing our kids to go out west to learn. Some of them come back, some of them don't. It's just the way it's always worked. ABAC, right across the border, they've got a rodeo team down there, and I looked there for myself when I was going to college.
I want to get this, because I think a lot of a lot of our listeners, both Gamecock and Tigers, would be interested in this. Politics can be a family business.
Mm-hmm.
Football can be a family business.
Yes.
Cattle farming can be a family business. Your father is a famous football coach from the Clemson Tigers, won a national championship in 1981 with the Clemson Tigers. You gave me a good orange shirt here. Kind of, what does Daddy have to say about all this?
At first he had a lot of concern, and I think that he's finally seeing that it just lines up right. Just my whole life.
But how many times did you hear, why you want to do this?
We talked about it 300 times. I mean, I've had, it went from, he'll test you good. So he'll sit there and ask you why you want to do it first. And then a weekend, he'll get to the brass tacks and give me a hard time about it. So, I promise you, if there's anybody I've heard it from, it's him. He's made sure that this is what I want to do. And
he's an old school football coach.
He's an old school football coach. And, I've heard a lot of people come up to my dad and ask him, please get into politics. Please help. And, at a certain point in my life, I became 40 and I have a 1 and a 4-year-old. So I turned around and looked, and I'm the closest thing to my dad that can go into politics. So, I grew up as a farm manager for a veterinarian and spent 15 years there, and kind of always wanted to be a vet, but it was like there's not a pro agriculture thing to go do like there is pro football. So where do I fit? And this presented itself after Hugh Weathers has been there 22 years, and with how I'm seeing stuff going, and my oldest one, 4 years old, looking at me and saying, Dad, I want to be a farmer, and nobody told him to. Well, there's a problem with that. The farmers are killing themselves at 3.5 times the national average, and so it was really my time to stand up and say, if he's going to have an opportunity in farming, if he's going to have the same things that I did, I have to get involved, even if we are not successful in this, in this getting voted in, then I think people will start to see that I am involved for the next generation, regardless if it comes from the title of Commissioner of Agriculture. We're going to make agriculture better in South Carolina. I hear a lot of these people talking about America first, and that's great. But, I'm special. I'm Commissioner of Agriculture. I'm going after. I want South Carolina first.
Well, man, I get it. And
yeah.
You don't mind me divulging this. His father helped me when I ran for lieutenant governor. I told this story on the air last time. Danny knows this story, through a intermediary that was a longstanding USC Board of Trustee member. And when we went to a funeral several weeks back, I met Danny Jr., and his father, who helped me when I ran for lieutenant governor, called me like a week later, Danny, and he said, I want you to talk to my boy and kind of advise him on whether any, and I did. I talked to Danny Jr., and I called Coach Ford back, and I said, you're not talking me, and he's made his mind up. I mean, I've heard that sound before. I know what it's like. I couldn't see the look in your eyes, but I knew that you'd already decided this is something you want to do, and I know he's supporting you in this effort.
There's no doubt, and if I can just give everybody a little boost, everybody listening is the answer. It's hard to get involved in agriculture. It's not something people look at on a daily basis like we do on the farm. But
most people don't own farms.
No,
I mean, to your point,
no.
They just don't own farms.
But everyone's a consumer, and the quality of your food is directly correlated with that Department of Agriculture. We can make it very, very easy for our farmers to produce in South Carolina and help them, or we can make it hard. And right now, in my opinion, it's regulated. It's tough. If I want to go out and sell a beef, I've got to go through the red tape. I've got to sell that beef live. So, imagine me coming to you as a consumer and saying, hey, I want to sell you some beef, but you have to buy it per the law as it's still walking, not in package.
You understand that, but the majority of consumers do not. They just don't understand it. Okay, tonight at the dispensary, from 5 until
to 7:30.
To 7:30, you guys will be there. You, Paul Dans, and David Pasco. If people want to find out more about Danny Ford for Commissioner of Agriculture, what do they do?
www.dannyfordsc.com, and I am very active on my Facebook. Danny Ford the second on there, and look me up. We're trying to do everything we can to make a better place in South Carolina for our kids to grow up.
All right, my man, good to see you.
Thank you so much.
We'll take a break. We'll be back in just a few moments.